Hey folks, welcome back to the Firefighters Podcast. Before we go any further, do me a massive favor and just hit that subscribe, follow button right in front of you. It would really help out the podcast. We really appreciate it. My guest for today is Alex Hepner, and we are going to head off on a wide-ranging conversation of so many things, some of which we had no idea of areas we were going to go in. This guy has done so many different things. You can find him at Groupcallpodcast, first and foremost, but that is only a very small percentage of the experiences that this gentleman has had. As you will have guessed from the title for the podcast, we have also got some significant life-saving advice in and around this podcast. We are benefiting from Alex's significant experience. He started 14 years ago as a medic with the fire brigade. He's had experience in mountain rescue. He's worked in several different branches of the ambulance service. He was a war correspondent for a period of time. He has been a journalist. He has written procedures for paramedics and dispatchers for mass casualty incidents. Once upon a time, he was an expert in the human factors for emergency settings. And as I've already alluded to, he runs the Groupcallpodcast, which he describes as an innovative internet project for healthcare professionals providing clinical educational videos. And yes, if you listen in about 2/3 of the way through today's show, we go into detail about what exactly to do if you are at an incident and you have a pregnant casualty. For some people, this is considered one of the most uncertain, rarest, and maybe even scariest casualties to have to deal with. There is 2 casualties there, and you may very well have their life in your hands.
Majority of your non-pregnant patients in any situation, but I'm talking predominantly road traffic collisions and trauma, will show you early signs of shock. So you will see this gradual deterioration of the patient from pale, clammy, fast breathing to this lethargic, slow breathing, and so on, and cardiac arrest. So you will have time to react. With pregnant patients, you won't have this time because due to the clinical features, more circulating blood volume, they will compensate for longer. So what you will see is patients who will be smiley, who will joke with you, who will be absolutely clinically fine, and then everything will go south in a second.
Our partner for the podcast today is once again the wonderful William Wood Watches. Now, William Wood Watches are doing something really cool again at the minute. In support of the Firefighters charity, they are doing the Always Ready motorcycle prize draw. Now, super important, there are only 300 tickets available. And why the hell would you want to enter? Well, Always Ready is a collaborative fundraiser where William Wood Watches have partnered with the talented Saltire Motorcycles based in Scotland to create the world's first ever William Wood Watches motorcycle. This is incorporating the workings of all of their watches and adorned with multiple elements of upcycled firefighting materials. This is a one-off motorcycle, folks. There is none like it. I saw it first at the British Firefighter Challenge, and I've seen it down in London since then, and it is looking absolutely sexy as hell. The lucky person that gets pulled out of the hat will be the person that rides off with that incredible motorbike, and they'll also receive complimentary William Wood Watch bronze ruby watch, which can be clipped into the bike itself. Now, you can enter the prize draw for just £100 a ticket. Yes, £100. I know it is expensive, or it sounds it, but guys, you're winning a motorcycle. I think the bike is worth over 20 grand, so it's a fantastic thing, and all of it's going to charity. That's it, you heard it. All of the profits from the sale of the Always Ready motorcycle will be donated to the Firefighters charity in the UK, supporting firefighters and their families. So if you're thinking you want to enter, if you don't know how to ride a bike, don't worry about that as well. Saltire Motorcycles have the answer. They are going to give the winning ticket holder free riding lessons, theory and practical instructions on site at their site in Edinburgh. So to be in with a chance to win, look at the link below on the podcast or on any of our social media podcast sites. You will see a Linktree link. You can click through that, and the first one on there will be the Always Ready motorcycle. So jump on in there and get yourself a ticket. I don't know how many are left, so go there now, go. So with the names in the frames, we're going to jump in there with today's guest, Alex. A word to the wise on the audio. For various technological reasons and challenges, we were unable to completely polish out the audio on this one. In an effort of total transparency, I'm telling you this because it freaking annoys me. But the content is that good. We wanted to share this conversation with you. Alex is a fascinating guy, and I hope you enjoy this wide-ranging conversation as we delve into and learn a little bit more about the life of the paramedic on the front line today. Alex Hepner, welcome to the Firefighters Podcast. How you doing, brother?
Too bad, thank you yourself.
I think we first met at the Emergency Services show. How long have you been involved in the emergency services?
So it was, I would say, 14 years now, mate. I started as a medic with the fire brigade actually in Poland, and it is to describe it, it's more like a BLS provider or emergency care assistant in this country. The difference is that we have an ambulance that actually follows the fire engine, and when we are required, we provide the medical support like on the basic level. But yeah, that was 14 years ago, and then I became a paramedic. I've got my job on A&E, then intensive care, pediatric intensive care, and then I was involved with ambulance service as such. And in 2015, I came over from Poland to England, and that makes me, I think, one of the first international paramedics, definitely with the South Central Ambulance Service, but maybe even in the UK. Not
let's
the
call
first
it in the
one,
world.
definitely
Let's
one
just make
off. Yeah, let's think big. Why not?
What made you want to come over to the UK?
Everything started with the job ad I saw in Poland, and my decision was simple. In Poland, which is a beautiful country, don't get me wrong, two factors play a very important role. The first is money. In 2015, my salary per hour was around £4 per hour.
As a firefighter and paramedic?
Indeed.
Wow. Okay. That is...
Yeah, that's the first factor.
That's
but you
offensive.
know what? But we can discuss the paramedics and firefighter salaries across the world, because that's the problem. And we did a podcast on it a few months back. But the second thing, and I think the most important factor, was that in Poland, you cannot really develop professionally. If you're a paramedic, you are a paramedic, and off. Yes, you may work on theaters, you may work on ICU, you may work on, I don't know, whatever you want.
Yeah.
However, that's it. You cannot progress further. And when I've learned about this country and the pathway you can develop, like you can develop in the as a clinical mentor, you can develop as a team leader, and so on. I thought that's something I want to do. That's something I want to try. I want to go further. I want to progress, not only just sit and then do my job. I left my job. Don't get me wrong. However, I'm this type of person who still wants more.
Mate, I love that. There's several things I want to click on there. So firstly, I want to acknowledge how incredibly brave it is to move from a country. I've got a number of very close friends who I have a tremendous amount of respect for, Polish men and women. A couple of friends that my daughter goes to school with, their parents are Polish. And to make that jump, I just want to pause for a second and double click on that. What did it take to make that jump? And I know to you and to so many people internationally, maybe I'm just a bit of a coward. They've made that jump. They've moved countries. They've maybe taken their family with them. How hard was it? I look at applications, in Scotland, and I look at applications in Ireland, and I still don't have the confidence and conviction to go for those sorts of things, and I don't know why that is. How difficult was it to make yourself do that?
I think that the most difficult. Okay, it's gonna sound like a cliche, but the most difficult thing is the first step, and actually making this decision in your own head, thinking, yes, I want to try. Logistic behind it is difficult, but definitely something you can sort out. In terms of family, that's quite difficult for Polish. We are very family people, and we don't like to leave our families. So if you think about Polish that actually work in the United Kingdom or anywhere abroad, majority leave their families back home, because that's how our culture is. We don't like to leave our families, our friends.
Yeah.
With me, it was slightly different. I'm this type of person. My colleagues say that I'm a bravado. I don't consider myself as a bravado, but I think that when you do something, when you want to actually make this step, just think big, and don't. I'm not the person that gives a half. Either I'm doing everything. So it's like everything or nothing. That's the thing, I think.
Yeah.
Hence why I decided to make this move. But yeah, it was.
But still, though, don't
difficult.
you find that you get so entwined in so many things? So, like in the last couple of years of my life, I have been trying to strategically unpick myself from things that I worked myself into. And we speak about this self-created prison before, and I know we're going straight off on a tangent, but in life, you get involved in so many things, like your career, your family, your community, and people like probably both of us. We're really intense people. We really go for it. And when we're involved in something, we give it everything, and we almost like consume it Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
How do you then unpick yourself from it? Because this has been a really hard thing for me, and I'd love that, just a little bit of advice from, the gyms we've had and the businesses we've had and stuff like this. You work so hard to get somewhere, and then when you feel like, you know what, there's another chapter of life now, there's something else I want for myself. Like for you, your goal will have been become a firefighter, then become a paramedic. And then you'll have worked so long for that, and then you realize there's a ceiling. You realize you can't continue to develop. And this is not just something international. I mean, there'll be people in the UK as well that think, oh God, I didn't realize there was a ceiling. I've got to the 5th floor of this building and now I'm stuck. And I always say to people, it's like you've got to climb down the ladder to walk across the street to go back up the next one. You can't just leap from building to building. How did you do that?
Mate, I think that it's just how I am. Before I became a firefighter and a medic firefighter, I was a journalist for 12 years of my life, and believe me or not, I was a war correspondent as well. I've been to the Middle East.
How did we not discuss that before? Jesus, slow down, man. War correspondent. Take me. You know what? This makes sense now because I've listened to your podcast, and you're very competent. You seem to have a way about you. So okay, go there. Keep going. Sorry.
Yeah. So. When I completed my degree, my first degree is political science, and straight after I became a journalist for a daily. And after 2 years, I decided to actually do this, let's say, in international affairs bit. And I was particularly interested in Middle East, and my dream was to go there and actually to listen to people to cover this bit of the world. So to do it, I thought I cannot go there with my basic English. I need to learn their language, hence why I've learned Arabic. It took me like 3 or 4 months to get the basics of Arabic, and then I persuaded my editor-in-chief to send me across to Palestine when actually that was time of the first Palestinian uprising, Intifada, under Yasser Arafat. And I spent nearly, 3 months now, covering all those bits and pieces in Jerusalem, Ramallah, West Bank, then Gaza Strip. And I came back to Poland to continue my career, let's say. And then I was sent to Syria and Lebanon, and then I came back and I thought, okay, that was great. Now I want to do something else. And now I'm kidding you not. I swapped my job and I became an editor. Well, one of the editors for a newspaper, not a magazine rather, which was called CKM, and that was Polish edition of FHM. And then I became one of the editors for Playboy, Polish edition of Playboy.
No way. Oh, mate. You know what? When I look at your studio and I look at your layout, I'm not going to, there's nothing perverse that goes on in there, but it has that feel about it. Do you know what I mean? Not like a CD sexual feel to it. This is sounding a bit weird now, but this is making sense now. I'm really, when you see somebody and it's like the tip of the iceberg, you really are one of those guys that the person you are now, from the language to your ability as a communicator to your drive, your ambition. Now I'm seeing the rest of the iceberg. I've literally, for people's information, we always prepare notes and stuff like this before we ever put. None of this is on the notes. This was, I really poorly prepared for this. Just take me back to Jerusalem and Syria for a minute. I don't want us to skip past that. You wanted to do something. You trained for 3 or 4 months learning Arabic. When you actually arrived, boots on the ground, what was it like versus what you thought it was going to be like?
I did my homework before, and I knew more or less what I could expect. I also made a few phone calls to my friends saying, how can you help me to settle there, to just get the first contact, and so on. So I contacted a person who was an ambassador for Palestine in Poland, and he basically sorted a few contacts for me. So when I landed in Ben Gurion Airport and took a taxi, I knew exactly where I go and where I will be for the first couple of days. But that was only, let's say, basic things. So I knew where I will eat and where I will sleep, but I had no contact whatsoever. So now, listen to this. That's hilarious, and that you are the first person I'm telling the story. Now, so when I actually ate my breakfast, and I thought, oh, okay, I need to cover some clashes. I need to see some action. So I went to the first checkpoint, and that was hilarious. I said, hi, I'm a journalist from Poland. Please tell me where the clashes are. And they look at me, they were like, who are you? Who are you bothering us? But the captain on the checkpoint was very nice, and he said, you know what? The hottest point here, it will be Ramallah, so you need to go further to the place where the microbuses go to Ramallah, and just grab one, and for sure you will see something. And now, yeah, that was a really good show. So I went there, and actually, I landed in the middle of some clashes between Israeli soldiers and Palestinians. That was my baptism of fire, let's say. And it was more luck than we have the saying in Poland. I don't know if that's the same in English. I had more luck than a mind or a brain.
Yeah.
Like.
I'm very much like that.
Yeah, welcome to my world. So that was a couple of things like that, and then I went to Gaza Strip.
So
And,
were you actually
before I went
identified as press? Did people need? Were you being paid to be there? Were you like freelance journalism? What was your brief? What were you supposed to be getting?
I was paid by my editor-in-chief to get there. I was identified as a journalist. Well, by identified, you mean the ID? Because
Yeah.
My office.
Or just
was
to stop
too poor
people attacking you or shooting at you, or I
well,
don't know.
You have to remember that now in the war zone, in the conflict zone, you're supposed to have like a bulletproof vest and a helmet. That's what journalists have now.
Yeah.
Back then, my office was too poor to buy. Let's say maybe not too poor, too tight with money to buy me any helmet or a bulletproof vest. So all I had was an ID. Okay, and before I went to Gaza Strip, I met a journalist from ITV actually, and we had a couple of beers, and we chatted, and he said, "What's your next assignment?" I said, I will go to Gaza Strip. So he said, "Oh mate, just remember to wear your helmet and your bulletproof vest." I said, "Mate, I don't have anything like that." I said, "Are you kidding me?" No. I was like, "No, not at all." So he said, "Actually, that's my last day. I'm flying back to the UK, so you can take my bulletproof vest."
Oh, mate.
And just when
Who was
finish,
it? What was the person's name?
Mate, that was 20 years ago. I don't remember. I had this business card somewhere,
Wow.
but he just lent me his vest, and so I went there. Before I went to Gaza Strip, I stopped in the very interesting place that's a refugee camp between two hills. The east hill is called Beit Jalla, and the west hill is called Hargilo. And on the east hill there is a Palestinian town, and on the west hill there was a Jewish town, and they were shooting each other. And the camp on the base of those two hills were getting most of the bullets. So I went to this refugee camp to see how those people live between two towns on two hills that are fighting each other. And guess what? When I was there, they started to fight to each other, and I was running away just to hide myself from the bullets. And later on, when I came back to Jerusalem, to the place where I stayed, I noticed that my bulletproof vest has a hole in the back.
Jesus.
So actually, it saved my at least kidneys, if not life.
Jesus Christ,
So, yeah,
Alex. What the hell are you doing, man? Man, I love that. How? So did people know where you were? Did you have to give like constant updates as to when your movements were? Because you weren't there with the whole team.
No. Mate, please remember, we are talking about the year 2000, 2001. Okay? So mobile phones were present, but were not very common.
No.
All the sophisticated systems of communication, forget it. Internet communicators, very poor. Signal out there, very poor. I actually lied to my parents. I didn't want them to be worried, so I said that I'm going to do like a government highly secured facility to cover some political bullshit. While actually I was running across Middle East wearing the bulletproof vest, which was silly. And yeah.
Did you have any family at that time? Did you have a partner or?
Back then I had a partner. I didn't have a family yet. No, that was 21 years ago, mate.
Jesus. Okay.
Yeah. So basically, when I came back from Middle East, I said, "Okay, that was fun. That was cool.
Did you not want to keep doing it then? Did you not have a bug? Did you not be like, right, I'm the war journalist now. I'm going to write books. I'm going to write articles about it. Why did you not want to keep doing it?
For a very simple reason. When I came back from this, let's say, adventure, I was encouraged twice or three more times to go there again. So as I said, Syria, Lebanon, I was up and about. But then my editor said, I don't have more money to send you abroad. If you want to do your bits, you need to your work needs to be based on the articles from Western press. And I was like, no. If I need to tell something to my readers, I need to be there. I cannot just translate bits and pieces from my Western colleagues. So they said, okay, then you need to either change your job or just finance those journeys on your own by yourself. And I was like, okay, I'm definitely too poor with the money you paid me for that. And
so do you think you would have kept doing it? If you had the opportunity, would you have kept doing it?
I think that if I would have a financial opportunity, I would definitely be still there.
Wow.
On Middle East. But yeah, they said no. So I said, okay, fine. And so if your advice is to change my job, I will change my job. So I found a different editor office, which was CKM, so Polish version of FHM.
Yeah. And
spent 8 years or so. And then being involved with Playboy as well. And then when opportunity arose, I became vice editor-in-chief or co-editor-in-chief for Polish edition of Maxim. And that was 2010, I think.
Wow. What would that job entail? Mm-hmm. Would it be you have a team of journalists working for you, or talking with sponsors, compiling the magazine and distribution? How much of a complex job is that? Because the more and more I learn about the world of media, the more and more I get excited, to be honest. It sounds like you've been and done so much.
All right. So being an editor-in-chief or co-editor-in-chief or vice editor-in-chief, if you like, is all those things you mentioned. So firstly, you have to have a clear vision of the magazine. You want to know what you want for your readers. And then you have to inspire your journalists. And then you need to, as you said, talk to sponsors. You need to try to get more or better authors. In terms of Playboy and FHM, you need to speak to models. You need to actually make those connections and try to attract more celebrities around the magazine.
Without seeming, I don't want us to go off too much down this direction, but is that sort of stuff as popular as it always used to be with the growth of the internet and stuff like that? Is the Playboy and FHM and Maxim and stuff like that, do you think that's going to continue with the success that it always has? Because it's pretty much the same that it's always been, isn't it?
Yeah, that's exactly the problem. When I joined Polish version of FHM and Playboy, we were selling around 100,000 copies per month.
Wow.
When in 2008, 2010, when the market started to be different because of the internet, when I left, I think we were selling around 40 or 30,000 copies.
Wow.
So you can see the drop.
That is significant.
And that's correct.
So with the growth of, you obviously run a successful podcast now as well. I'd be interested, before we sort of get into what we were going to discuss today, what do you think's happening across the landscape now? Casting your mind back 20 years to when you started out doing stuff in the world of media. Mm-hmm. How do you think podcasting exists alongside television and radio and written form and internet articles and internet newspapers and magazines? Where do you think the balance is now? And I appreciate it's a very big question, but
actually, that's a very good question because of what happened yesterday. So, if you obviously were involved in the whole firefighting thing around the storm Eunice, and
yes.
Most likely you were too busy to see what happened yesterday. So the chap who runs a small channel which is called Big Jet TV,
Okay.
With like seriously minor live stream viewer numbers. He got into the muddy paddock on the end of the runway for Heathrow Airport, and he started broadcasting from there. Okay, he had a camera, an internet connection, and a mobile phone. And this chap yesterday gathered more than 200,000 live viewers.
Wow. That's
Only
it. Everybody's just a freelance journalist now. I love that in a weird way, the gatekeepers are just gone. Anybody can just pick up and go now. The tools are just
absolutely
at your fingertips.
But you know what? Funnily enough, we started our conversation with Middle East. When I was there, I remember seeing over 70 radio stations in Palestine, which, if you think about how small the country is, you think 70, it's crazy. But they had their own niches, if you like. They had own viewers or listeners. And the same here. As you said, anybody can be listener or viewer or broadcaster. And within seconds, it's just a bit of luck and just a bit of your, what's the word, intuition. Yeah. And you're there and you broadcast with your mobile phone and you can gather thousands, hundreds and thousands of viewers. And that's amazing. I love it.
Sustaining it though. Sustaining it is the hard thing, I think, for so many people. So I want to get back.
You know what? I want to say one more thing, which again was quite maybe not annoying, but stressful when I started my podcast, and I had like 50 subscribers or 30 subscribers, and if you will go to the YouTube and you will listen to all those YouTube or internet gurus, they will say, "Oh, number doesn't matter," but when you are a creator, you know, as you are a creator, you want big numbers because that's how you know if you're good or not, right?
I always think you're like shouting into the void. It always feels like you're just speaking into darkness because you're just like, hello, is anybody there? But what I love about it is it's like eternal content. So, you know, the things you created, you know, when you first started and some of the stuff we did over 2 years ago still gets new hits and listens and YouTube.
Mate.
And it's weird, but you've got to stick with it. I just think it's a study of madness. Some of it is podcasting. It is so strange. I love it.
That's what I wanted to say. When I had like 30 subscribers, I went to the internet to Google something, and I Googled by accident a channel where a lady was talking about a microwave. Okay, so she put the camera in front of the microwave. There was nothing, no lights, basically no special effects, nothing. It's just microwave. And microwave and a camera, and she was talking about this microwave, and you know what? 30,000 views.
Yeah,
and I'm like,
it's ridiculous.
I just shocked a chicken. I just shocked a chicken with a defibrillator, and I had 425 views. All right, and she is showing the bloody microwave, and that's 30,000 views. I hate internet.
You know, there's. I was looking at something the other day, and there is a lady who does like lots of little tips about how to use Microsoft Excel. So you know the software Microsoft Excel. Millions and millions of people, and I swear to God, I can use most softwares. I'm sure most people in the people can. You know, you have to use Office. She's just reading a tutorial book that probably came with the software. No, and fair play to her. She's great. She's doing it great. But you just like you say, we get so complex with things, and we want to have a special thing and a special effect and the nice music, and then someone just does that, and you're like, oh, you know what? I'm done. I'm done. Forget it.
Yeah.
Are they really good?
Yesterday, I was with this chap from Big Jet TV. I was like, okay, I'm done. I can turn my computer off. I can turn my broadcaster off, and I will just go home. It makes no sense.
I love that you see things like people that put cameras inside washing machines, or that like there's that place where they but you're like the ideas are fantastic, aren't they? People do little things like that. Have you seen the person that crushes things? What a great and simple idea. They've obviously got a pressurized machine designed to test the tensile strength of certain stuff, and they just put random stuff underneath it. They put a golf ball.
Mate, I will tell you,
and I'm like, what a great idea.
I will tell you even more. Again, by an accident, I saw on the internet like 2 or 3 days ago a chap who doesn't even have this pressure thingy. He put this stuff underneath his the wheel of his car, and he just crushes things, and that's it. And people like are crazy about it. 100,000 views.
Mate, it's ridiculous.
Or a rubber duck run over the car. I was like, and nothing. 120,000 views.
Right. Let's try and wrestle our way back into our subject.
Yes, sir.
So we've gone fire service, paramedic, moved to the UK.
Mm-hmm.
What was it like when you first got into the UK? Had you already secured your position here as a paramedic, or so? What happened then?
So the deal with the the deal with the South Central Ambulance Service was simple. We're supposed to be successful on the 7-week-long clinical course and 5 weeks long driving course. If we are successful in both, we have a job. If not, we go back home. And I was successful on the course. I passed all my exams, and I was successful on the driving course, including blue light driving course. I passed it as well. And I became registered with HCPC, so Healthcare Council.
Mm.
Oh, God, HCPC, which is Healthcare Professional Council.
Whatever it is, yeah.
The proper name. Doesn't matter. Yeah, but I was successful and became registered with HCPC, and that's how I got my job. And I started in High Wycombe, and that was amazing time and awful time equally. Amazing time because I met lots of very nice people. That was also an awful time because A, I missed home, and B, I met a few awful people.
Yeah.
And that's it. But I made this decision to stay here, and yeah, 2 years later, I was successful on the interview on the post of clinical education manager with South Central Ambulance Service.
Is that when you started co-authoring on some of the procedures for paramedics and dispatchers?
No, the procedures for paramedics and dispatchers wasn't in Poland. So when I was a paramedic in Poland,
right.
I also was a spokesperson for my ambulance service, and that's where I became involved in this project. And when I became one of the 3 co-authors of those procedures.
Okay, so when you were putting those procedures together back then, some of that was in and around mass casualty incidents. What were some of the sort of bigger insights or some of the things you learned while you were studying that?
That apart from medical and technical point of view, we also need to remember about human factors. And human factors play a massive role in any incident, but especially if you're dealing with multi-casualty incident, that's not only paramedics at scene and firefighters at scene that are actually under the influence of the clinical, of the human factors, but also dispatchers. And what I wanted to do is to put a structure on how dispatcher work in Poland, because that's the difference. So, for example, here in the UK, you have call takers who have like a set of questions, and they just go with the list of questions, and they
read it like a script, don't they? And they work their way through it.
That's the word. And they put the information for the dispatcher, and dispatcher dispatches the crew. In Poland, it's slightly different. So, firstly, to become a dispatcher, you need to work for 5 years with ambulance service, and then you are a dispatcher and a call taker, and you basically don't have a procedure, only a clinical knowledge. So
that does make sense to an extent, though, doesn't it? Because it gives you a much more conceptual understanding of what the crews on the ground are going to be facing and what sort of information they need.
Indeed. So, but the problem is that the pressure on the dispatchers in Poland is huge, because having no script is only their clinical judgment to send a truck or not.
Yeah.
To ask the person to make our own way to the hospital or GP, or to actually send out the truck. And and it's still there, and it's still like that in Poland. We decided back then, to put a structure on it and to help all those people, not only paramedics on the ground, but also dispatchers, to make them their life easier, I would say.
So when you decided to come over the UK, we spoke about the financial aspects, and I know you said that you recently did an episode sort of based on this. Before we keep talking about it, let's just say you run Groupcallpodcast. When did that first start, and what made you want to start your podcast?
So it started in November 2020, and what I wanted to achieve is to keep doing my job, because I love to teach. I love speaking to people. I love to discuss clinical things. And as pandemic started, we didn't really know what will happen. And I observed that lots of clinicians moved into this internet cloud, if you like, internet reality. And I thought, why I cannot do the same thing? I thought I will make things better, because back then, internet was full of webinars, which I find, with all due respect to people who are doing webinars, they are very static. Someone who is reading out PowerPoint or showing the pictures, and okay, if you can learn like that, absolutely fine. But I wanted to do something more, hence why I recreated this famous experiment where a group of scientists shocked the chicken. Oh no, they actually defibrillated the turkey to prove that there is no current on the ground around the victim, so defibrillation is actually safe. Hence why I didn't do just a webinar on aseptic techniques. I actually, in cooperation with amazing firefighters from Vista, they prepared a car for me upside down, and I demonstrated with the victim inside. I demonstrated that it's actually possible to maintain all those aseptic techniques and provide the best care ever in the car upside down, and so on.
So just reverse back, because you made a really good point about defibrillation, and I felt like we rushed through it a little bit, because I think there is still a big myth for people that haven't gone and looked at your study and looked at that. Just expand on what you first did with the defibrillation.
Okay, so what I've done is, again, recreating the experiment that took place over 10 years ago. I took a chicken carcass and I put the defibrillator pads on it, and I shocked this dead chicken, and I measured the current on the metal plate that the chicken was on, and the current was lower than 3 volts. So if you remember, we have batteries bigger than that. We have 9-volt batteries. Yeah. So what I wanted to achieve is to demonstrate that actually it's safe to defibrillate on metal surface. It's safe to defibrillate on wet surface. As long as you are not touching the patient, it's still safe. So because the current on the ground around the victim is
so the fallacy around shocking people in vehicles, around shocking people laying on steel in factories, or if they're in contact with something themselves, that's perfectly safe.
Absolutely safe. You have to just remember 2 things. A, you need to dry the skin, but that's for pad adhesion. So you dry the skin of the patient, and you are not touching the patient. You don't want to touch the patient.
Yes.
And you're safe. So there is, even if you are defibrillating on wet or metal surface, you are safe. And that's what I also proven in the second one, because after defibrillating, let's say, dry chicken, I wet the chicken, I made the meat wet, and the surface around it wet, just to prove that the current won't be shocking, won't be big.
It is strange.
Again, less than.
I think we have the same thing with things like radiation. We were given a fantastic lecture a little while ago about radiation, alpha, beta, gamma, all the different types of radiation, and our perception of how it is transmitted and how you become irradiated versus radiation and the different types and all that sort of stuff. And I think there's a real misconception about picking things up and suddenly becoming irradiated. Someone gave a great analogy for me about sunshine, about when you get burned by the sunshine and then you go inside, you've not still got sunshine on you, but you're still affected by the burning. You're no longer exposed to it. I forget, I'm totally ruining that. The way that the example they gave of radiation was far better. I apologize to the gentleman that told it to me. But it's great to have some of these myths busted, because you do still hear that. I think it's one of the go-to things that we sometimes have first aiders on, our first person on scene or threat courses or stuff like that, where they talk about defibrillation on wet surfaces. And I think it's just a phrase that just comes off the tongue now.
But there are more myths, and funnily enough, we will broadcast on a Monday morning the next episode, Group Call Live, where you have an Australian paramedic, a Finnish paramedic, you have paramedics from America, and you have me, where we actually busting 10 of the most common medical myths still present in our society, still in medical world. There are still medics, and I'm not saying about first responders, with all respect to first responders. I'm saying about doctors who believe that, let's say, spraying sodium chloride into your patient's face when they have a fit will stop the seizure, which is, I'm sorry, bullshit. But people tend to believe that. And so we will bust some myths on Monday, and I'm really
this
curious.
This podcast is going to come out a long time after your broadcast on Monday. So
okay.
Just for people to be able to refer back into it, what sort of stuff will they be able to jump over and have a listen in on?
Yeah, so they will be able to. But do you mean like in general, the Group Call Live, or
give me the top three? What do you think the top three myths are that you'll be busting?
Okay. Okay. The first myth would be hypoxic drive. So people tend to believe that we should not be giving oxygen to patients with chronic pulmonary obstructive disease, for example, so COPD. The second one is 21-23 rule, so depth of the intubation, so how deep your tube should go. And the third one would be checking the blood pressure, checking the pulse to see if your patient's systolic blood pressure is over 90 millimeters of mercury, which is again bullshit.
Do we still check pulses much? I mean, we use pulse oximeters and stuff like that, but some people still appear as though they are, the old sticking the finger on the wrist and checking for a pulse. When you're in a traumatic environment, and when, for us, we're at road traffic collisions and stuff like that, I can't imagine that's a very effective way of doing it.
Well, we still teach that, because we want not only to know the number, because pulse oximeter will give you the number, let's say 70, 80, 90, and so on. But we want to know how strong the pulse is, how well perfused, and also is the skin warm and dry, or maybe it's clammy. So actually, pulse checking gives you a lot more information than just a number. So yes, we still encourage medical professionals to check pulses. It's different with lay people, different with first responders who are not really trained in checking the pulses, because the problem is that you actually can feel your own pulse.
That's what I'm saying. I swear to God, when I do that, you can feel your own pulse in your fingers, because you squeeze it, you can get your own distal pulse. I can never quite. And also, you're asking questions and you're trying to pay attention to what the person's saying, and I think it's just, I could never do it. With
some training, you should be fine. Seriously, it's just a matter of repetition and training. But yeah, we still encourage medical professionals to check pulses.
Okay, take us back to pay. So you came over into the UK. What was the difference in sort of annual salary? And you said you guys covered this in a recent episode. So what's the landscape looking like for paramedics and for people in the healthcare sector now? Okay,
so let's start with me. I've got top band 5, so I think that was around 22 or 23,000 pounds back then, or 21. Don't really remember, but that was 20 plus thousand pounds annually. And again, definitely better than I pay in Poland. Did it help me to start? not really, because the problem is that if you are based in the country, you have family, you have your support network. If you struggle, here I've got my first salary and I had nothing. I could not even really properly rent a house or a flat because I didn't have a history with this country. So it was quite challenging, but definitely money were better. But again, think about the cost of living. So something that costs, let's say, £1 in Poland here costed me like £5 or £7. But again, definitely better money, and I did not have to work 350 hours because that's the number of hours I worked in Poland to pay my mortgage, between 350 and 400 hours per month. So definitely I could stop having one job here. I didn't have to have 2 or 3 jobs as I had in Poland.
Wow. Okay, so you were doing 50, 60 hours a week in Poland was a normal week?
Yes, that's correct.
Crikey. So what's the landscape looking like now in the UK? Mm-hmm. What's happening with the changes of paramedics? Because I still feel like, paramedics coming into the job now are on 22, 23,000, something like that. Firefighters coming into the job are maybe on 25, 26, but you don't need a degree to be a firefighter. It seems like there's a lot more training involved to be a paramedic. I'd be interested in hearing your thoughts on it. Okay,
so 2 things here. Let's start with money. That's the worldwide problem, and as you mentioned, we had an episode on staff retention and job satisfaction with paramedics, and what came quite interesting is that it's not only money, it's also a workload and access to training. So that's the 3 most important points considered by paramedics when they think, should I stay or should I go? And let's say 10, 20 years ago, in England, being a paramedic was a lifetime job. Now staff retention is around 3 to 5 years.
Yeah, 5 years, isn't it? That's what I was reading a study the other day. 96% or no, 87% of the company. 5 years. I mean, that's scary. It takes you that long to train.
Yeah, that's very true. But again, that's the problem where paramedicine becomes more a GP focused thing, a primary care focused thing rather than emergency service. And lots of my colleagues who started this job because they wanted to be involved in emergencies, either change it or just quit it because they say, okay, the workload is horrendous. We are involved in the jobs we were not really trained to do because we still can deal with, let's say, primary care issues, but majority of us were trained to actually deal with emergency jobs, and definitely money, because it's a really demanding job. And if you think about responsibility that is on you and how quickly you can lose your registration and be stopped from doing the job you love, it's quite harsh.
Definitely.
So I think that,
and all that responsibility is on your shoulders as well. In a fire crew, there's at least 4 of you there, versus a paramedics will often work alone. And you said about that sort of changing workload. My brother-in-law's a paramedic. I know he speaks of the fact that they're now training, a lot of them prescribe. You can upgrade qualifications to be prescription. Then you can go out and do searcher, and you can go out and do lots of things that people typically would have had to go to the hospital or would have had to go to the doctors for.
Yes.
They're now, and I'm sure I'll say this wrong, but they're becoming like mobile hospitals. Mobile hospitals, they can prescribe drugs, they can write out all
or
those
even
aspects.
Mobile GP surgeries. GP surgeries. That's correct. That's correct.
That just seems like a lot of responsibility for one person.
That's one thing, and also what our viewers and our listeners are struggling with is the fact that the system is bad. And by bad, I mean you send your patient to the hospital in the patient's best interest, and you see them the next day discharged without any proper pathway, without any proper medication, and you think, what's the purpose?
Yeah.
Why those patients are not looked after? Why the whole responsibility seems to be on our shoulders, and then hospitals just don't care, or social services or whoever is involved in the whole process. We we are on the bottom of let me rephrase that. We are on the first line of this war, and we can see that as much as we do this job with all passion and property, then the further links of the system fail, and we are frustrated about it, and that's the next thing.
So why are people falling out of the funnel? Why are people falling out of that funnel? You know, you're going out there, you're scooping people up. Let's say that's a very loose term, but you're giving people a service. You're on the front line. You're on the tip of the sword. You're giving that care. You're packaging them. You're taking them off to hospital. Why aren't they getting traction? Why are they falling out of that funnel? Why are they falling out of the system on step 2? And just going straight back out there into the ocean for you to go and scoop them back up again with the same challenges, but probably with less faith in your abilities and in the NHS, because they just keep falling out of the loop. They don't feel like they're getting the care. You're becoming more disengaged. Why are they falling out? What's the problem? Why are we not making progress with it?
I think that if I would have a proper answer, I would be a Minister of Health now.
Maybe you do. I have no idea. Who do we need to be speaking to? Who have you spoken to about it?
No, I think that, jokes aside, I think that those are a few different factors play a role here, and we can start with incompetence of some people up there. Sometimes it's a workload, sometimes it's a bad luck, sometimes it's lack of communication, and that's what I see very, very often. We tend not to speak to each other. So like hospital doesn't speak to social services properly, social services doesn't speak to us, and so on, so on, so on. Okay, it can vary from area to area. Maybe in Oxfordshire it's different to Buckinghamshire, and so on, so on, so on.
Yeah.
So I don't want to point my finger in any direction, but I think that communication is the biggest issue here. I think that's what we should remember about. So when my patient goes to hospital, usually they spend lots of time on A&E because A&E is overcrowded with people that's supposed to be in GP surgery. And now I'm not going to blame GPs for the queues, but why those people cannot be served by the GP surgeries and get the proper care at their homes. Okay, so my patients.
Don't you think for some though? Sorry, just to double click on that. This might sound really horrible. I think for some people, we've got an aging population. People are living older now than they ever have done, and we just seem to be so ill prepared for the amount of people that go to GP surgeries on a weekly basis for things that they don't need to be there for. And that might sound so harsh, and I apologize for people that have elderly relatives that believe they sincerely need to. I'm not saying they don't deserve the care. I'm not saying they don't need it. They don't need to be going into A&E, certainly, or the walk-in centres or stuff like that.
And I think that the best term to describe it is lack of long-term planning.
Yes.
Because if we know that our society is getting older and older and older, we should be thinking about how to prepare for this wave and how to actually deliver the best care to the patients. And as you said, so that GP surgeries, that maybe walking centers, mobile care centers, that's where the emphasis should be on.
I mean, you see some fire services, sorry to interrupt you, during the pandemic have been delivering medications. And again, a lot of that was down to the fact that people couldn't come out of their homes. But is there an in-between ground that sits there, whether it's the social care sector, whether it's, because it's certainly not, it shouldn't be the role of the paramedic, which is at the minute it seems like it is. They're like you say, becoming a mobile GP. Does it sit in the realm of firefighting? Is it a police service? Is it a social care? Because there looks like there is a real niche there. Maybe, I don't know, maybe you should start a company of delivering medication. I'm sure there's a company already out there, but there seems like there'd be a massive time save, which would equate to a massive cost saving and efficiency in the queues and people sat there waiting at pharmacies and GPs and stuff like that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that our elderly patients deserve better care, and definitely A&Es are not places where those poor patients should be. They should have a definitely better service where they live.
Is there an aspect of like awareness gap though? As in, like, a lot of this stuff relies on people going online, and again, I apologize, we're going down a bit of a rabbit hole, but if we say you can log in and order your medication and get it delivered to you, a lot of people don't know how to do that. You know, you don't know your customer base. We're asking elderly people to try and do this. It's not necessarily within their realm of comprehension.
I think that the next problem or next challenge here is that there are people who just want a human contact.
Yeah.
So
it's a social aspect. They go there and they see their friends there every week when they go and pick up their medication. Then they go for a cup of tea afterwards.
Exactly.
And there's 15 of them sat in A&E.
Yeah. What I can say is lots of the times I manage to sort the care for my patient at site where they live without massive struggle. It takes me usually an hour maybe to make a phone call or 2 phone calls or 3 phone calls and connect a few dots and actually provide the best care. And I don't mind spending an hour with my lovely patient. The problem is that my resource is then unavailable for others.
Yeah.
For emergencies.
At the end of the day.
And absolutely. Again, I adore my patients, and as I say, I believe that the best care ever. Is just, I think that emergency services should be supported definitely by maybe government, maybe Ministry of Health or whoever can do it in preparing better structure and better pathways, if you like, for those patients.
You know, they've got those mobile libraries. Have you ever seen them? They go out into little villages and stuff like that where people can access libraries. Correct. I'm pretty sure they're not going to exist for much longer. But I think something like a mobile prescribing pharmacy cafeteria, because people go, they meet up, they get that social aspect, they can have a cup of tea, they can, read the newspaper together, and that place has got, cases and cases of the prescriptions for the people in those areas. Well, I mean, I'm sure this stuff already exists. We're not reinventing the wheel, try not to. But there's community nurses, isn't there? Or there's, what are they called? There's clinical area nurses. What are they called? It probably is just called that. And they already do similar to that. But again, some people can't travel. Mate, I know we're not going to solve this. There's people in government being paid a lot more to solve this, but I just feel like there's got to be the answer.
Mm-hmm. Definitely, I think that something's supposed to be done here, and I would definitely ask for help for emergency services. Not because we don't like our patients. We love our patients. It's just they deserve different care.
Mate, I think there's a call in there for you. I think with your political background, with your ability as a communicator, with your knowledge of the emergency services, you're well placed for this. You just need to be having the right conversations with the right people. Maybe it won't pay enough.
No,
maybe the political
I swear to Lord. I swear to that. I swear to that. It's been not even an hour of our conversation, and I already swore like 4 times. And I'm really trying not to.
That's the beauty of a podcast sometimes as well. Sometimes you need to speak normally. Like you say, with the analogy of a webinar, sometimes it's just a bit too political and a bit too jarring. You're like, just talk to me like a human being. I wanted just to go back for a second and give me the comparison between, because you've done work looking into and experiences with sort of critical nurse areas and what happens when people arrive in that sector. And now, obviously, you have a significant amount of experience as a paramedic. What's the difference between a paramedic and a critical care nurse? And what are they looking at when it comes to patient care?
Okay, so let's start with, I was a critical care paramedic. In Poland, paramedics can work on ICUs. So I've never been a nurse. I've always been a paramedic, but critical care paramedic. And the difference is that critical care paramedic works in completely different environments. So when you, as a paramedic, you arrive to the patient, you need to think about now, how I can solve this problem now, how can I deliver the best care for my patient now. And maybe if I think about the perspective of, let's say, 2 or 3 days, or maybe a week, as a critical care clinician, you think about far longer perspective. That's the one thing. the next thing is, as a critical care clinician, you have more medications. You have more clinical tools like ultrasonography, like blood analysis, and so on, so on, so on. And definitely, you work in the calmer environment. So you work in your comfort zone, let's say.
Yeah.
Because that's my word. I know where the beds are. I know where my meds are. I know where my needles, cannulas, everything is. So yes, I need to think more, and let's say I need to think, take this longer perspective in my decision-making process. But I'm in the safe environment. Whilst being a frontline paramedic, I have less meds, I have less clinical tools.
You've not got an endless supply of support and equipment and people to lean on. It's just you, or sometimes an EMT or driver with you.
Or emergency care assistant. Yeah, and but I work in different environment every time. Once is a home setting. Once I work on the side of the road. Next job is in the church. Next job is in school, and so on, so on, so on. So definitely different numbers of clinical tools, meds, and different environment. That's the main two differences.
You know what? I've just thought about something as you were talking then, because you spoke about limited equipment and stuff like that. And it's something I love having a conversation with firefighters with sometimes. I wanted to ask you about your pockets, because I know we didn't talk about this before. Pockets. When you get off the truck, or you get out of your car and you have to, like you say, walk over a field, or you have to go to the 5th floor of this, or you have to go into the school, and you land straight in front of someone and you're going to administer some care. What do you have in your pockets? What are the essential things that you think a good paramedic has quick to hand? What are the things you're always going to be using straight away?
Okay, small difference between Poland and England. In Poland, we use almost like a tactical vest, like police officers, and then in your tactical vest you have usually a set of cannulas, you have a good tourniquet, you have a pulse oximeter, and you have a few dressings and
gauzes.
Yeah, that's what I think I had in my tactical vest. In the UK, I quickly learned that it's not necessary to keep it in my pocket, especially as I'm not wearing the vest I have in my uniform.
Okay.
So what I have in my pocket is my JR Calc pocketbook, which is amazing help and aid memoir. So if I don't remember which drug should I use or how to deal with, let's say, whatever medical condition, I can always open my JR Calc and double check if my management is correct, if my dosing is correct, and so on, so on, so on.
What book is that called again? Sorry, slow down for a second. I remember ordering one of these off Amazon a long time ago. I think it was like 40 pounds, but I can't remember what it was called. So just slow down for me and just say what that book, because people can buy these. These are publicly accessible.
Yes, it is JR Calc. JR Calc.
Okay, JR Calc, yes. I will put that in the notes, because I think that's quite, I know people might not want to go deep into what everything's about, but I think that's quite interesting. I bought one when I was doing some ride-alongs with paramedics. Obviously, I wasn't actually going to do anything myself. I was helping lifting and move casualties and stuff like that. But I think there's some incredible stuff in there. Like you said, it's like an aid memoir of flashpoints and flashcards of quick references, prescriptions, dosages, certain conditions, and because you can't be expected to remember all of it, I suppose.
Well, yes, you can in Poland. So that's, again, funny cultural difference. So, I think that JR Calc is an amazing thing, helping to reduce the cognitive load for a paramedic. That's amazing, and I use it every single time. Anytime I can, I use my JR Calc. Back in Poland, if I would open the book in front of my patient, they would be like, "Oh, now you're learning," and I would lost their trust.
Lost their trust. You think they're going to kill you're going to kill them. You don't know what you're doing.
Yeah, because I don't know what I'm doing. So that's one of the many cultural differences I came over in this country. And but I think it's brilliant. Okay, so anytime I can reduce my cognitive work, my cognitive load, I do it.
I totally agree. We have like tough books and mobile data terminals on our fire engines, and they have all of the procedures and sort of cordons and distances and how chemicals react with each other. And some people, they love to sit around the table and test each other, and I do it sometimes. But I would rather work on my human behavioral skills, my ability to build rapport with patients and get critical pieces of information, because then when I need to refer back, I can just refer to that. I can just open it up. I can just have a look at it. I think people gravitate towards that detail sometimes when they're a little bit less confident of, focusing on their casualty care or their, for a firefighter, for their practical based skills. They'd rather tell you how many PSI of air goes into the airbag. I don't care. I'm not interested. It doesn't matter. Nobody cares how many liters go into there. No one cares the exact weight of the hydraulic cutters. It's irrelevant. You know what I mean? You're going to use them if they work. They work. If they don't work, we're going to try something else. I would much rather refer to the technical data because our equipment changes all the time. And I don't know if it's the same with you. Every time more projects and stuff come out, the JCalc gets updated, doesn't it, every couple of years? So
almost every year it's updated. However, exactly. I think that I can observe that with many clinicians, and I think that that's just a natural way of learning. You go through phases, and one day you will find yourself in the phase when you are fascinated with all those details, which are really unnecessary. I remember actually backing up two paramedics who were arguing over a patient. Is that by Gemini on ECG or trigemini on ECG? And patient was on the floor, pale, and required some urgent assistance whilst they were discussing completely irrelevant from a clinical point of view detail, because your clinical management will be absolutely the same pre-hospitally. Yeah. And one more thing I observed, which worries me greatly, is that we tend to rely on the equipment. We tend to rely on our monitors, our sensors. And my saying is, we turn on the monitors and we are turning off our thinking, and that's awful because we should be treating the patient, not the monitor. And of course, blood pressure is important, pulse is important, temperature, all those things are important, but not as important as basic features. I will give you an example. I teach newborn life support and obs and gynae to paramedics. And how often they ask me, for example, what should be the ideal heart rate for the newborn? What should be ideal SpO2, so blood saturation, blood oxygenation for the newborn? And I give them the answer, but I say, but that's not really relevant. Look at the basic features of the newborn. Is it floppy? Look at the color of the skin. Look how he behaves. Oh, how she behaves, and so on, so on, so on. There are more important features than numbers. Numbers are important, but at the second phase. In the first phase, you need to focus on more important factors than numbers. But
do you have children yourself?
How I do.
Yeah, I'm absolutely the same. I think there's a I'm not going to name any names. I've got a couple of very close friends who are how shall I say it? So they work in the NHS at different levels. Let's make it anonymous. There's a real burden, I think, that comes with knowledge. Would I be right in saying that? Do you know where I'm going with this? Because they constantly analyze and look at their children's vital signs for several things, and I worry they're going to create hypochondria. I worry their child is going to constantly worry that they're ill. I'm one of them where, like, I've got 3 kids, and my child's screaming or something like that when they're a baby, not screaming, but they're crying or whatever. Okay, yeah. Have they got good colour? Okay, have they eaten in the last 5 or 6 hours, and have they had a poo? Okay, well then just let them cry.
Yeah,
just let them cry. Yeah. Take a few of their layers off if they need to cool down. If they feel cold and clammy, maybe put some layers back on. But I'm like, don't worry about it. The baby's fine. The baby's making noise. Yeah. It's not suffocating. It's not dying, is it? It's moving.
I'm even worse. I just checked. Do you have all limbs? Head, fine. Thank you. Bye.
Yeah, that's what I think sometimes. You mentioned a great point when you were saying about the two paramedics arguing about the devil in the detail. Have you ever read a book called Black Box Thinking?
No,
mate. I will send you a link after this. After we finish our conversation, Black Box Thinking. I'll put this in the notes of the podcast for people as well. So, at the beginning of this, at the beginning of the book Black Box Thinking, it was written by a gentleman Very, very interesting individual. And the story is based on him and his children and his wife. So his wife had some sort of deviated septum, or she had something, I think she was snoring. I think this is what it was. She had like a snoring thing. And you can go for a simple procedure and you have it changed in your nasal cavity or something like that. And then you don't snore anymore. So she was going to go and have this simple procedure. And she went in the morning, and the dad and the children dropped her off. And they said, let's go to the shops and we'll buy Mummy some stuff. And then when she comes out, we'll cook a nice dinner for her, and then we'll go to the movies or whatever it was. She went in there and they saw the anesthesiologist, the anesthetic person that puts them to sleep. And at some point in the time that they got the dosages wrong. So they went to put her to sleep, but she wasn't breathing properly. And she wasn't breathing around. I think they gave her too much of a dose or something like that. And the two doctors that were in, or the one doctor that was in the room at the time, was trying to, I'm going to get the terminology, was trying to intubate her. And he was trying several methods of trying to do it. And they left the room to get another doctor. And they continually tried to intubate this woman, and they discussed different methods, and they discussed the equipment. Do you know the study?
I know the case.
Yeah.
Elaine Bromley.
And then there was nurses.
Elaine Bromley.
Yeah, Elaine Bromley. Thank you. There was nurses in the room who were who had the tracheotomy kit. They had the trach kit there, and they're like, but they didn't have the confidence to overrule the doctor and say, why don't and she went, well, I don't know what it was. You probably know far more than I do. 4 or 5 minutes or something, or longer. And when the brain goes without oxygen, she was effectively a vegetable. She was irreparably harmed. I think they put her into a coma.
And she sadly died.
She sadly died.
I think 13 days later she died, sadly. We teach human skills or human factors, rather, in our education center. And this sad case of Elaine Bromley is one of the major cases we show to other students as an example
at the beginning of the book. But also, so you're aware of that one. This has a correlation into what you see in the naval. I was going to say naval, not the naval. The aeronautical. So in airplanes, in cockpits. So cockpit management systems, where they've had a number of flight case studies where the aeroplane is running. A great example that they give, and I'll get the name wrong, it's flight something site 7329, I don't know what it is, where they're coming into land and they go to put the landing gear down, and the light in the cockpit doesn't switch on. There's supposed to be a little light on the dashboard that switches on that says the landing gear is now. It didn't come on. So they send the co-pilot back, and he has a look. There's a little hatch you can look at underneath the seats, and there's some shot bolts that are supposed to be up if the landing gear is down. And he had a look, and the shot bolts are up. So that would suggest that the landing gear is down. But the pilot himself was so focused on this light, he's like, I'm not happy. I don't know what's going wrong. So they started putting themselves into a holding pattern, and they started circling the thing, and the pilot started getting to work trying to dismantle the light bulb and see if the light bulb was broken. And you can hear this is why it's called black box thinking. You can hear in the black box recording that about 20 something minutes in, there's an alarm that goes off that says the aircraft is running out of fuel. And you hear it go off, and you hear 2 or 3 times the co-pilot says, sir, what about the fuel? And he's like, we're absolutely fine. We've got loads of time. And he palms him off 2 or 3 times. And then the fuel gets to a point where it's just too low. And he says, sir, we need to land. And he says, that's fine. Let's just go in there. And he's like, we can't get there. So they try and go to a different airport, and they can't get there. And they end up putting it down in a field somewhere. And loads of people, I'm sure I'm going to misquote this, loads of people die. But it talks about the level of investigation that happens whenever a plane goes down, because, very, 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 not very often, a plane will go down, versus originally, and I say this with the greatest respect to people in the medical profession, there is less investigation historically that used to go into simple mistakes, like you said earlier about communication, handovers from paramedic to the critical care, from critical care to the doctor to the surgeon, those gaps in communication where the wrong knee gets operated on, or things like that. And because we're just so busy, and because you take the Hippocratic Oath and it's all done with the best of intentions, historically it didn't have the same level of investigation despite the best of intentions. And anyway, it's a fantastic book. It's a fascinating book. And when you spoke about those two paramedics debating the difference in equipment and or the statistics they need to be using from it, it just screamed out in my mind. But sorry, I went off on a tangent there.
No worries. Please send me the link. I'm really fascinated by
I will, mate.
what you just said.
You would absolutely love it. So I wanted to go back and speak about when we were a paramedic on the ground. Obviously, I work in the fire service. You've got the expertise from there. How can firefighters be working more effectively with a paramedic on the incident ground? What are the expectations? What information would you like from us if we're arriving somewhere first? Or how can we work better with you? And then I know we're going to go into an area of sort of expertise and the worst case scenario of some incidents that we're most worried about attending.
I think that every job is different, but predominantly we want you guys to be with the patient. We always need someone to reassure this patient and always be there. I think from my experience with British firefighters, you guys are great in communication. You are far better than some paramedics. So one thing if I could ask for one thing is just let's practice more. Let's do more exercises. Let's do more maneuvers because it's just about practice making you master. But always, if you're asking me about the very very in detail thing, is always have someone with the patient and don't worry about other details. It's just are they breathing or not. The rest of it we will take care of.
Okay, so yeah, sometimes you can find that when the paramedic arrives, the firefighter gets taken away and steps off and goes, "Oh yeah, right, we can leave them with you now." But really, you need that communication and support because you've got 1,000 things to do, I suppose. It's and you're all
communication. Communication is one. The second thing, if you have to, the communication is one factor. The second thing you should be aware of is how the patient feels when people in care are changing. If person is really distressed, if person is scared, if person is I don't know, in panic, they need someone to trust. So if I have a firefighter from the very beginning, I will keep the firefighter with this person for longer. It's just for the patient comfort. I will do all my paramedic bits and pieces. I will play with my magic equipment, but I love this firefighter to be with the patient because that's where it started. Now they are 20 minutes together. Let's leave them there. I don't need to move this firefighter away. It's great if they're there. And again, let me reiterate. Every time I see British firefighters, because you guys are amazing, not only technically but also communication, soft skills, absolutely top end.
So, or like you say, try and keep the same person with them because they do. They develop a relationship, don't they? They get on a first name basis.
Correct.
I'm Pete. I'm the firefighter who's going to be looking after you today, and their name's Susan or James or whatever. And they have that constant relationship, right? You know, James, the paramedic's going to be coming in. They're going to be checking this now. You're going to hear firefighters moving around the vehicle. They're going to cut this post, this big steel post behind your left head. They're going to cut that in a minute, and you're going to hear a loud bang. So consistently having that communication and that relationship because. You as well, I mean, you're quite a unique individual because you've got some experience of firefighting, but a lot of paramedics will just be moving around them. I mean, I know I'm using the example of a road traffic collision here, but we're just moving around, we're smashing glass. One thing I will ask of paramedics, so for anybody that may or may not listen to this as a paramedic, please wear helmets. You know, please wear PPE. Your PPE is significantly less robust at times than ours, and there are so many sharps and danger. There's a reason we've got our big crazy gear on because you know there's a lot of dangers in there, and I know you guys and girls have to get right in there and get amongst it. But the jacket and the helmet seems to be the first thing that comes off sometimes, and I've seen a few paramedics take chunks out the back of their head or cut themselves on the side of some shrouded metal that's sticking out because when they went into the vehicle the doors were on, and now they're getting back out. There's no roof and no doors, and you know, I worry as an incident commander when I'm looking at the paramedic climbing around the vehicle with their skin out everywhere, and it just that would be my ask. So,
thank you, sir. And let me reiterate that you guys are amazing. In my humble opinion, when I work with Oxfire or Buckinghamshire guys, you guys are amazing in glass management and shafts management. Yeah, absolutely. I can just compare with what you just said. PPE at scene.
Now,
is worried.
I wanted to ask you one of our sort of closing questions before we get into our personal sort of quick fire round that we like to do. You've got a significant amount of experience in pregnancy, so gynecology and people experiencing pregnancy and how to deal with that. I've always found that to be one of these scarier incidents to attend when it's a singular patient and it's just man or it's just woman. When you realize this person is pregnant and it's mummy and baby, it feels like an additional level of complexity and pressure, and especially if that person is in the process of giving birth. You know, I'm astonished at how many paramedics I speak to that tell me the number of births they've been present for. I thought it would be significantly rarer, but it's more common than you think that.
It is, and it will be more common. Last year, Royal College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists, I remember correctly, estimated that 12,000 babies will be born pre-hospitally, but due to COVID, this number can be now forgotten. And ladies now doesn't really want to go to hospitals because hospitals are no longer perceived as a safe place.
Yeah. I think people don't want to go to hospital. They prefer to give birth at home. No,
at home. So it will be more and more common. Now, if you think about pregnant patients, a crash course, guys, please talk to your patient, okay? Calm them down, because fear and panic is the last thing you want for many reasons, human factors wise, but also clinical wise. So you want to talk to them and calm them down as much as you can. Also, if you think about road traffic collision from this perspective, it's great if someone is there and talking this lady through what's going to happen. You will hear loud noise here. You will hear bang or bash or whatever sound here. Explain what's going to happen and how loud it will be. That's very important. So that's one thing. Two, always remember that you have two patients. Okay, it's always two patients. So you require, or your patient will require medical assistance, sometimes two crews. I would say for firefighters, for my firefighters colleagues and friends, the mantra you have to remember is what is good for mom is good for baby. So if you think, shall I give her oxygen? Yeah, it's good for mom. It will be good for baby. Speaking of oxygen, if you think about smoke inhalation, for example, maternal hypoxia is something we really don't like, we're really afraid of. We want mother to be well oxygenated because then baby will be well oxygenated. If mother won't have enough oxygen, baby won't have enough oxygen, and that's it. That's really not a great idea. So please remember that this oxygenation is important, as temperature management as well. And the last thing I want to say, not making it too clinical, majority of your non-pregnant patients in any situation, but I'm talking predominantly road traffic collisions and trauma, will show you early signs of shock. So you will see this gradual deterioration of the patient from pale, clammy, fast breathing to this lethargic, slow breathing, and so on, and cardiac arrest. So you will have time to react. With pregnant patients, you won't have this time because due to the clinical features, more circulating blood volume, they will compensate for longer. So what you will see is patients who will be smiley, who will joke with you, who will be absolutely clinically fine, and then everything will go south in a second. Okay? So you won't see those red flags, you won't see those warning signs before your patient will collapse or will go into cardiac arrest. So don't be fooled by good skin color, good alertness level. If you will, for any reason, check blood pressure or pulse, they will be fine. And then within seconds, everything may go south. So
how do you know if baby's coming? Sorry, I know we're jumping ahead. How do you know if baby's coming? Because we can wait sometimes with all due respect, you're very busy. We can wait a very long time for an ambulance. How do we know if baby's coming? Obviously, we might see it, but what changes coming up? What do we need to do if we think baby's coming?
The most significant clinical factor is change in contractions. If contractions
will they know when they're having a contraction? Obviously, they should know.
Oh,
but...
you will hear when the lady in labor has a contraction. You will hear it. Okay, definitely you will hear it. If contractions,
just to be clear, just because they'll be screaming, or as in the body.
Oh, it's very individual. It's very individual, mate. But usually it's a verbal demonstration of a contraction. Usually it's verbal, but some ladies may just tense their body, but definitely it's something you will observe or hear, if you like. So if contractions are 2 minutes or less apart, you should not. That's what we do with ambulance service. We say we stay and play, because the birth is imminent. If the contractions are more than 2 minutes apart, then we may consider transfer to the nearest hospital.
So should we be timing these as well? Like if it's obvious this woman is pregnant, and you see her tensing up and she's having a contraction, have a quick glance at your watch, make a note on the back of your nitrile gloves, and we should be trying to time these, and then start really worrying if it's shorter than 2 minutes.
That's correct. I mean, we don't really encourage writing on gloves because it impairs the features of the glove to protect your skin. But make a note.
Oh, really?
Definitely make a note somewhere.
I used to see people do that all the time.
Writing.
People used to do that all the time. Sorry.
I did that in Poland. No, mate, no. But I did that in Poland. But in this country, I actually learned and got some proper research that we should not be writing on gloves because it impairs the features of the glove to protect your skin later. And same with, let's say, length of time you have the glove on the skin, because latex or nitrile is porous, and longer you have your gloves, those small holes or micro holes are bigger and bigger and bigger, and your nitrile or latex gloves are less and less protective.
How often should we just pause there, because I feel like that's really valuable. How often should we change our gloves then? If we're at an incident, multiple casualties.
It depends from manufacturer. It depends from actual manufacturer, but I would say from my perspective, it's 20 minutes to 0. 20 minutes. Okay. I would change my glove every 20 minutes.
Gloves. It's going to be a pretty big incident if you're there giving care for longer than 20 minutes.
Yeah, but it also, please remember that it also varies from manufacturer to manufacturer.
Yes, yeah,
but anyway, you make a note when the contraction occurs. Also ask your patient. They will tell you, I'm having a contraction. Or if they had babies before, 2, 3, 4, they will tell you, oh, my baby is coming. Please listen to your pregnant patients. They are really knowledgeable. They know what's going on with their body. So if I actually facilitated birth, that's what I do. I facilitate birth. I don't give birth. The lady who's pregnant is giving birth. I facilitated birth on A34. Just before Oxford 2 weeks ago, and on the way to hospital, the lady said, baby is coming, and 25 seconds later, baby was out. There was no like a proper clinical feature. She had contractions, and she had those contractions quite often, but not more than 2 minutes apart. But in one moment, she said, "Okay, baby is coming." Yep, yes, ma'am. You have a lovely boy.
That would just be crazy. So when we talk about pain relief, some fire engines for a period of time, we carried Entonox and stuff like that. Is that still safe? Can we give that to pregnant ladies as well?
Absolutely. Gas and air, so Entonox is absolutely indicated in pregnancy. If a lady wants to take it, absolutely indicated. One top tip, if they are breathing quickly, I would say try to coach the breathing down because if the lady is breathing quickly and will self-administer Entonox, she may pass out. So slow the breathing down, nice slow breaths with Entonox, and absolutely fine. Okay.
So when baby is coming, she says, my baby's coming, it's coming now. What do we need to do? If you're not there, what do we need to do?
Well, just before the lady will say that the baby is coming out, what you need to do is to make the environment warm. And you want to make it warm like 23, 25 degrees, okay? You don't want 21 degrees or lower. Just to give you an example, a newborn will lose its temperature in 21 degrees as quickly as adult, naked, wet men in 0 degrees.
Wow.
So 21 degrees for newborn is absolutely not enough. You want to have current guidelines from Research Council are 23, 25 degrees. But do not overheat. I was actually on a job. I backed up a clinician who turned all the radiators in the room on and top it up with 3 remote heaters. It was like 40 degrees when I entered. and this chap said, mate, he said, I think I'm going to collapse in a moment. I said, okay, yeah, because you created a bloody Sahara desert here. So what I teach to my students is do not overheat the environment, because dad will collapse, mom will collapse, your crewmate will collapse, and you will be the last person to deal with the whole situation. So no, do not overheat 25 degrees. If you think, Mallorca in May, imagine yourself on a holiday with drink. That's the temperature you want.
So if the patient's still trapped in the vehicle, that's just going to be blankets and tunics and layers, I suppose. But if we've got them out and we're just waiting by the roadside, just layers and layers, and try and keep them off the concrete, and try and keep them warm, and maybe take the baby into the fire. Cutting cords. Do we have to do that? I mean, I'm guessing. Hold on. Sorry. Slow down.
Hold on. Before we will slow down, firefighters, before you will take the cutters to cut, before you will take a whole matter to cut the cord, no. Hold on. I was involved. I was testing recently a tent called Rigulu, which is dedicated to responders, to first responders, medics, firefighters, to create a safe environment for a casualty, not only pregnant casualty. Okay. But I found it really good. So if you will have any type of a shelter or tent on your engine, that's amazing for birthing patient. The next thing, before the baby is out, please remember that the supine position you can see on the telly is not great for lady in labor. If she wants to go in all fours, please let her. If she wants to stand and lean against the wall, or whatever position she wants to take, please let her. She knows, and her body knows the best what position is the best for giving the birth. Now, what you want after the baby is born is you want to dry the baby, okay? Dry and stimulate the baby for 60-90 seconds. Baby won't cry instantly after leaving mom's body. It will take some time. So keep stimulating, keep drying, and then when you can hear the first cry or first sigh, discard the wet towel, wrap the baby in the dry towel, and give it to mom, and encourage skin-to-skin contact. Now, with the skin-to-skin, very important thing, mom will most likely will be sweaty, will be wet. So before you will hand over dry, warm baby to mom, please ask her to dry off her chest. And then when her chest is dry, pass the baby over and encourage skin-to-skin contact and breastfeeding, as it helps with contraction of the uterus and delivery of the placenta. Now, shall we cut the cord or not? We discourage you guys from cutting the cords, and we also, if there's no immediate medical need, we don't cut the cord. Delayed cord clamping is the best thing you may do for baby. Actually, it will support the whole system later, and baby will have more red blood cells in the next 3 months than if you would cut the cord prematurely, let's say. So don't cut the cord. I will tell you even more. Now we are trying to change the approach, because the approach was if the baby's life is in danger, cut the cord, take the baby to the resus area, which was not great for mom, if you can think from human factors point of view. And if resuscitation would not be successful, also grief is harder or longer when you were not witnessing what's going on. So now we're trying to bring the resuscitation to the baby, not baby to the resuscitation. And what we do in pre-hospital, we create like a small trays with equipment, and we take this tray between mom's legs, and we actually resuscitate baby if there is such a need between mom's legs. I did that twice, and I need to say that as much as it was difficult for me as a clinician, it was really beneficial for mom. And definitely for baby, because we did not cut the cord, so that there was still blood supplementation. Of course, later on, umbilical cord becomes floppy and white, and then we can cut it. But
so if baby comes out, we dry baby, umbilical cord still on, baby's not breathing, place baby on something dry between mummy's legs. And normal CPI, is it 15 and 2 with the...
Well, it's 2 fingers, and it's 3 to 1. It's not 15 to 2 or 30 to 2. It's 3 to 1. So 3 compressions and 1 ventilation. 3 compression, 1 ventilation. But the whole algorithm is slightly different for clinicians, because before we will jump on the chest, we need to check a few clinical features, and sometimes just drying and ventilation helps.
Because baby might have fluid still in their mouth. So
baby most likely will have fluid in the lungs. So what we normally do after baby is not breathing and is floppy, so we deliver something which is called 5 inflation breaths, okay? And those inflation breaths are slightly longer than 1 second ventilations. And the objective of the exercise is to pull the fluid out of the lungs into the surrounding lymphatic tissue. And sometimes just those 5 inflation breaths helps. It's just important to deliver those 5 inflation breaths with a small BVM, not the adult one.
Tiny
So
little squeezes.
Sometimes, exactly. What we need to remember is that baby needs between 6 to 8 milliliters of air per kilo. So if baby is 3 kilos, let's say 7 milliliters, that's 21 mils of air. Okay, that's how much the newborn requires. So if you would squeeze the whole adult bag, you would actually cause a barotrauma and actually.
So to try and make it a little bit easier for the panicking moment that it is, very, very, CE grip on the side of baby's face, nice and gentle, covering nose and mouth, and just a gentle squeeze on the bag. Would the visual of just you're only looking for a slight inflation in the chest, aren't you? Because like you say, if you see a huge rise in the chest, it's likely you're going to cause trauma to baby.
Yeah, you need actually very tiny squeeze. And what's important, you need to put something under the baby's shoulder, because if you think about baby's head, it's quite huge. So by lying on the flat surface, most likely the airway will be closed. So what you need to do is put something under the baby's shoulder to actually put the baby into this nice neutral position, and then actually cover the baby's mouth and nose with the mask. If you don't have a very small mask, you can use adult mask. Just flip it around, so where the nose part is, this nose part goes where the baby's chin is. And then definitely baby's BVM, so small BVM, tiny vents. The inflation breath should take between 2 to 3 seconds, and 5 of those vents you want to see chest rise and fall. And sometimes only this maneuver will help. Then what we do pre-hospital, we deliver ventilations for 30 seconds just to give a bit more air. Because what we just did with the 5 inflation breaths, we pushed the fluid out, but the lungs are not oxygenated. So now it's time to give them some oxygen, some air to those small lungs, and those 30 seconds of ventilation. And then we make decision based on the pulse. We actually check the baby's pulse, but we don't feel it with the fingers. We listen it with a stethoscope. And then if that's 0 to 60, we do 30 to 1. So 3 to 1. So yes, you can actually see a baby with a pulse that has a full CPR performed. If the baby's heart is between 0 to 60, we definitely will deliver 3 to 1. If pulse is between 60 to 100, then it's just ventilation. We want to address bradycardia, so slow rhythm with oxygen. Most likely it will help. And if the baby's heart rate is and if the baby's heart rate is above 100, we are happy as Larry.
Happy as Larry. I love that. Who is this Larry who is always so happy? Can we compare ourselves to him?
Exactly. If you will Google Larry Laffer, that was a chap in the computer game from 90s, and you will see from the pictures why he's happy. Larry Laffer.
Larry Laffer. You said earlier about what's good for mummy is good for baby. So I just wanted to ask about defibrillation, because it's something that regularly comes up in conversation about pregnant woman. Do we use the defibrillators? Do we change voltages? Do we switch it to baby setting? Can we shock mummy? Can we shock baby?
Okay.
Where do we go there?
So we go there as far as what's good for mom is good for baby. So yes, please, if mom requires defibrillation, please do. Electrode placement is the same. Voltage is the same, so we don't change joulage. You place electrodes where you should place electrodes. The one difference, if mom's breasts are so huge that you cannot put the pad as you would normally put, you go in mid-axillary line, so in armpit. You place
go across,
where the armpits are.
under the armpit, from side to side, as long as it's going across.
That's
and I suppose
correct.
you can go. Could you go front to back? Because I know with middle-aged children, you can go front to back, can't you?
Mm-hmm. Yes, with kids, yes. With mom, I wouldn't bother. It's too much fluff. You need to roll or log roll your patient. Blah blah blah.
Roll mummy is not going to work, is it?
I would definitely go by auxiliary. In terms of CPR, what you need to remember, your hands should be slightly higher because all organs are pushed up by the baby, by the fetus. So you want to put your hand 2 to 3 centimeters higher on the sternum. And most important thing, someone should manually displace the uterus. Back in the days, what we tend to do is we tend to roll the blanket to put mom in so-called left lateral tilt. So roll the blanket under the right buttock. And the objective of the exercise was to keep the baby's weight away from large vein, which is called inferior vena cava, because of compression that the baby was creating on this vein could impair the venous flow. Now we know that it's okay, but it's better to have someone actually pushing the uterus to the left side or pulling uterus to the left side. Apparently, pulling is more effective. So, in your environment, in firefighter environment, you always have more than one person. So it would be good to have someone who's actually pushing the uterus away or pulling towards them. You want to move it away from patient right side. You want to move it to the patient's left.
Okay.
By doing that, you're saving both lives. You're saving both lives.
Mate, that's scary.
I love it, mate.
I would be more than happy. I've not delivered a baby yet. I'll be totally honest. I would love to support a paramedic, and whenever we go to trauma, I'm a workplace trainer with our trauma, so I love it. I'll always get involved, and I really look forward. And in fact, let's go there for a minute. I would love to see more firefighters doing corresponding. How do you feel about corresponding? Are we taking the jobs from the NHS? Is it wrong? Should we just be putting more? Because it's hard to recruit for paramedics, right? It's hard to recruit for emergency care technicians. And should the fire service be helping out more? What do you think about that?
Yeah, so it is quite difficult to recruit them. But in terms of first responders or correspondents, guys, I love you. I adore every single moment spent with either civilian correspondent or firefighter who's corresponding. Please do it more, and I hope that as soon as COVID will ease off, let's say, we will have more of you third morning and doing the jobs with us, because
I'd love it. I would love it. I would love to have
side.
The ambulances on the fire, like they do in America, and by the sounds of it, like they do in Poland.
Yes.
We share our resources. We have a central hub for emergency services, certainly for paramedics and firefighters. The police can join us if they want to, but I definitely would love to have less focus, because I just think most trauma incidents we're going to be going to together anyway. So I just feel like there's got to be a massive cost saving. Speaking to higher level management within some fire brigades and fire services up and down the UK, they have said, and I'm sure if I spoke to my NHS colleagues, they would probably say the same, but they said it's so hard to get these agreements in place. The NHS is so much bigger than the fire brigade?
Well, I'll tell you what. So in Poland, we occasionally, from let's say station to station, have those trucks. It's not very common, and definitely nothing that would be institutional. Back in the days, fire brigade wanted to overtake ambulance service in Poland, but then they realized that in 1 month. But they realized that in 1 month we do more jobs than they do throughout the year, and they said, "Yeah, thank you, no."
I was about to say, there's no more nights in bed, boys and girls. If you honestly want to take all of the work of the paramedics, I wouldn't encourage that. But I do think I would love to see us working less in silos. Because I think it would make training so much more interesting. It'd be better for the public because we'd work more efficiently together. But we'd train you more on rope rescue and how to work together, and you would train us. And I just think it'd work much better. I think the community would be much stronger. I'm sure there's some really obvious reasons as to why it won't work. Maybe people are arguing over budgets and who's going to pay for what. I don't know, but
most likely,
all the money's coming from the same place. I know it's different pockets of money and all that, but I think it's so disappointing. I know there's unions involved, and I know there's lots of complexity to it, but I would love to see more of it.
Yeah, actually, one of my friends is a firefighter. Okay, let's put it that way. He was a firefighter and now he's a paramedic. And he said to me, maybe you would like to be a retained firefighter. I said, actually, I would love to, but I would love to be a paramedic firefighter. And he said, no, we don't have it in this country. I said, why? And I said, I don't really know, but unions are involved. Oh, okay, all right. Because I said, maybe we could start like a pilot program for paramedics who want to be a firefighter, and we could actually have one paramedic per engine that could provide medical care.
Yeah, absolutely.
Why not?
I swear to God, it's the same arm, and I'm probably going to show how little I know about things now. You do, for some of the ambulances, because of the size and weight of the vehicle, I think we could have driver paramedics. I think that would be an easier transition, because
why not?
You're already blue light trained. I'm pretty sure you have the same classification of license that our drivers do. I think that we have C1. I mean, I have C, so I can drive a proper lorry. That's what I'm saying. That's what we have. We have a Class C and a Class C1. Yeah. Some of our prime movers and stuff and our aerial ladder platforms are a little bit bigger, but the vast majority of fire appliances, and certainly a lot of tactical response vehicles and smaller response vehicles that fire services are using now that ride 2 or 3 firefighters, that would be an obvious thing for me, where you could drop a paramedic onto the crew and we could go out together every night. We could assist you and vice versa. I would love that. I would absolutely love that. Plus,
me too.
You've got some really attractive paramedics. There's not as many attractive people in the fire service. It would make going to work nicer sometimes.
I think that if you would ask a female paramedic, they would definitely say that firefighters are more attractive than male paramedics.
They're not. Honestly, some of them are. Some of us are, and I'm not including myself in that. That sounded weird. But some people don't use the gym as much as I would like them to. Some people do, and I live in the British Firefighter Challenge community in Cheshire Fire Challenge. There's a lot of people that are still going out there, remembering that they're there to serve the public and they're trying to stay fit and healthy. But I wish we did more of that. I want our frontline operators, paramedic, police, fire service. I want them to be the fittest, strongest, most diligent, most passionate, people that continual professional development. I want to see more of that. And I know maybe I'm living in cloud 9, I'm a serial optimist, whatever, get a grip, Pete. But I'm like, is it too much to ask? I mean, I know it's stressful and I know it's hard, but exercise helps us deal with stress. It's a great cure it's a great aid for mental health and stuff like that. And speaking to a few paramedics friends of mine, they say it's one of the first things that they stop doing when they've got all the night shifts and they don't get out there and they don't get out for a run or they don't get out for a walk, and you don't have gyms on. Not that you'd ever have any time. You wouldn't have time to use it, I'm sure. But I just think and that's what I mean. If you were allowed to use the fire stations, we could exercise together. We could eat together. We could have lunch together.
That's what they do in Finland. One of my co-hosts on Groupcall is Finnish paramedic, and he said that that's where they based either hospitals or fire brigades or some fire stations, and they use gyms, and they have time and they are more fit. They are, unfortunately,
and they stay in the job for longer. They must stay in the job for longer. They must.
Yeah, absolutely. They a bit, but definitely they better, because, as you said, more fit your body is, more fit your soul is.
Yeah, 100%. Finland. Come on, we need to learn some lessons. Right, quick fire rounds. I wanted to just finish with a few questions. First one is, you have done so many different things in your life, from media to paramedic to working as a journalist to now to firefighting, to moving to the UK, to starting a podcast. You must be working on something. What does personal development look like to you now? What are you working towards? What's making you tick in the morning?
I just love my job, to be honest. I'm not trying to say a cliche now. I love my job. I love how I'm doing now. Personal development. I always wanted to be a HEMS paramedic, but I don't know if I still want it, if I didn't move to this stage of life when I actually want to teaching young paramedics. Recently, I've been seconded from ambulance service to University of Cumbria, and I actually start 7th of March as a clinical lecturer, and I'm really excited about it, because I will be still paramedic. I will still be on the road, but I will be teaching slightly different learner. So that's something
that's really exciting. And for somebody with your level of passion, I think communicating that to the next level, or to the next round, or to the next generation of people that will administer care in whatever capacity they do is the best role for somebody like you. I think you'll love that.
I hope so. And if you think about professional development, I want to, every single day I want to know more, and I want to do more exciting things, because that's what podcast is for me. It's not only passing the knowledge, but also making exciting things.
Yeah, 100%.
What more I could want? That's the thing.
Advice. What advice would you give, or what do you wish you'd known when you started in the emergency services?
Don't just go with it, because in our job, lots of times you can hear, just go with it, just suck it up, that's the nature of the job. No, if you don't like something, if you are not happy about something, if you feel that something is wrong, raise it, discuss it, have this conversation with someone, either your line manager, your colleague, or whoever else.
Yeah.
Don't just go with it, because it sucks.
And it's likely you're not the only person feeling that way. I think you're right. So many people, especially when they're new into their career, they think, this is the way it's always been. I shouldn't raise my voice. I should just smile and nod and keep. Things need to change. Things need to progress. Nothing's. We're not in a dire straits or anything like that. But all progress comes as a result of some form of change, and that change needs to be ignited by somebody saying, I'm not sure we're doing this right, or something's changed, so maybe we need to adapt what we're doing, or I'm not happy, or.
And it's both. Yeah, and it's both. Clinically, if you think that something is clinically wrong, discuss it with someone. From a human point of view, when I came over to this country, I was bullied by one of the officers, and I basically booked my tickets home twice, and I stayed. Did I raise it? No. Till basically today, it was just my thing, and I was like, let's just go with it, despite of the fact that I was quite experienced clinician when I came over here, and I should feel better, I should feel strong, I should feel more confident. I didn't. I'm new in this country. Maybe that's the culture. Maybe that's how it should be. No, there is no place for bullying racism. There is no place for bullying students or newbies. So again, to cut the long story short, if you're not happy with it, just don't go with it. Discuss it, raise it, report it.
Absolutely. And I think we see more of that now as well, that people are coming into the job with a little bit less life experience sometimes. I mean, you came in with a significant amount of experience, but you had that massive language barrier, which made you vulnerable in a way. It made you vulnerable to people that thought you might have been stupid, you didn't know what you were doing, you were incompetent, because you had this colossal language barrier. And for some people, that, whilst it's not a language barrier, is usually an experience barrier, and people don't come in now with the same level of life experience that they used to have, because people have grown up in a different culture now. So you can have people 20, 30 years older than them going, don't you know that? I don't. You're not going to last. You're not going to last long in this job. You need to toughen up.
Oh yeah.
You need to get over yourself. This is just the way it is. And some people are like, no, I'm not sure this is the way it's supposed to be. I'm not sure I should feel this way. I'm not sure you should speak to me like that. Those, and I think we are getting better at that. There's a big move towards a little bit more emotional intelligence and a little bit more awareness. So my sincere hope. I know I do a lot of mental health stuff within our service, and I'm a trained practitioner and all that sort of. It's really big, and that's kind of where the podcast came from as well. To be fair, I love people. I'm fascinated in human behavior, and I like to understand what drives and triggers emotions, and you end up having quite deep conversations with a lot of people on a regular basis because
I can imagine that.
Yeah, you're just very interested in them. So we're going through pieces of advice. I wanted to ask you about challenges. I know you said the language barrier, but looking at paramedics that are coming into services now, there's obviously a big financial aspect to it, and then it's how long it takes to train for it. What do you think would be the biggest challenge facing somebody that wanted to become a paramedic?
I think that all those factors you mentioned are there on the table, but also what I think I found the most challenging is to try to have a successful personal life as professional life. So try to marry those two factors. That's the most challenging thing, and I still find it challenging because I love my family, but I also love my job, and it's very difficult to marry up those two things, and that's always the challenge. The rest of it, financial things, yes, by all means. Sometimes with simple problems like I cannot afford the car to commute to work, I cannot do this, that those are challenges definitely, but I think that they are easier to overcome rather than just this how to marry up your personal life and your private your personal life and your professional life.
Especially is because you want to be the best at your job, not better than anybody else, but you want to be the best version of yourself, and that can lead people down a path of doing a lot of private study, which we should do. But spending hours and hours on YouTube in the evening and trying to read all the books, and especially if you're the sort of person that ends up recording podcasts on the weekend instead of spending time with your family, you've got to get a bit more self-awareness, and we will bring our conversation to a close soon, so we can both get back to our families. But
absolutely,
I wanted to ask you about the proudest moment in the job.
If you expect me to tell you about a mass casualty incident or a baby resuscitation, you're wrong, sir. I would say that my proudest moment is every time I can see my patient smiles. And it doesn't matter, is it an RTC where when we together with firefighters drag them out of the car and put them on stretchers and so on. It doesn't matter, is it a lady on the floor who just needed to be picked up and made a cup of tea and just a chat. Every time the person I'm called to is smiles, that's my the proudest moment.
I love that. And it actually, I never say to people I wouldn't say set low standards, but I agree that I try to set a low threshold for fulfillment because it allows me to get a win every day. Like for me, it's, simple things, getting up in the morning, doing a little bit of exercise, making a connection with somebody on the way to work, even if it's a small thing, and trying to add a small amount of value to somebody's day that makes you feel like you've got that small win. So no, I love that. Otherwise, if you set it up to be something significantly tremendous, like say multiple casualty incident or a helicopter crash, or then that means you're only going to get it maybe once in your career, and maybe never.
True.
If somebody says, I'll only feel like the best firefighter in the world when I pull somebody out of a burning building. You might never do it. You might never do it. Do you know what I mean? People can spend their whole career and never make a live rescue. So no, I love that. Final question. If you were going to teach our children, we've both got children, and now you're going into an education role and you're going to start doing this lecturing and stuff like that. If you had to, or if you were given the opportunity to teach a class of young children as a paramedic, as sort of life skills, what would you spend that 1 hour teaching them?
Two things. And I will start with the second thing, which is, of course, BLS, so basic life support, because I truly believe as a paramedic and a critical care paramedic that good BLS saves lives. People with needles, tubes, defibrillators saves lives, but by all means. But we, with advanced life support, we will do nothing if there is no good basic life support, so BLS, so those chest compressions and ventilations. That's the second thing. But the first thing I would teach them is safety, because safety is the most important thing. Good rescuer is a life rescuer. So scene awareness, safety, and definitely self-awareness as well. That's what I would spend my hour on.
It's almost as though you've done it before. So situational awareness, keeping yourself safe, not putting yourself in a hazardous situation, and then the basic life support. Those foundations of basic life support, so that when the paramedic, when the hero, when the whoever does turn up, you can keep that person sustainable till then.
Absolutely. The longest recorded basic life support on actual person, not on a mannequin, was 90 minutes. And it happened in America, in a small town of Goodhue in Minnesota, where a guy just fell in the grocery store. And the citizens of this small town, I think there's like 1,000-something citizens there. So they lined up and they performed BLS on this chap. Every citizen and every person compressed the chest for 3 minutes, and they were switching around and up to the moment when a helicopter from the bigger town arrived. 90 minutes, and this guy left the hospital after 3 days with no neurological problems.
Jesus. 90 minutes, an hour and a half.
90, exactly.
Wow. I've done CPR several times, but for no longer than about 5 or 6 minutes. It's knackering. It really takes it out of you.
But that's why you need to swap people.
As soon as somebody starts CPR, you need to be thinking, who is in there next? Because you can't just go, oh yeah, he's going to do CPR. Yeah, for about 2 minutes. Then somebody's going to need to be right there behind them to switch them out.
And you know what? And that's the problem with in our jobs, both yours and mine. Because people run on adrenaline. They think, yeah, I can carry on. No, you cannot carry on. Even if you think you carry on, your effectiveness drops. Your chest compressions are not as effective as they should. So, absolutely swap people around every 2 minutes, even if they are. No, I'm fine. I can go for ages. No, thank you. Next.
Because your self-awareness will start to your perception of how effective you are will drift as well. Alex, thank you, brother. Thank you so much. Honestly, we had 2 pages of notes to talk about, and I feel like I could have made several more pages because you've just opened up so many doors and windows into different areas of your life, and I've found it absolutely fascinating. For people that want to come on
I'm delighted.
And learn a little bit more about yourself, give us a bit of information about Group Call Podcast. How can they find you? Where can they find you?
The easiest way is to go to www.groupcall.uk, and that's my internet page where they can find all the information about the podcast and recorded episodes as well. Or just type Group Call in YouTube, and it will take them to my channel.
Love it. Absolutely love it. So all of that information, folks, will be in the notes of the podcast below. Alex, thank you, my friend. I sincerely hope
my pleasure,
we can get together at some point in person and do something together and try and create something to better empower the rest of the emergency services to hopefully do a little bit of what we're doing here. Hopefully to work to cross that bridge and work together more.
Absolutely. Beautiful. Absolutely, sir. That was a pleasure. Thank you for having me on the show.
Take care of yourself, and I will speak to you soon.
And you all the best. Bye-bye.
Hey folks, this is Pete jumping back in just at the end of today's podcast. We discussed several things today that I just wanted to double click on. Head into the notes of the podcast. First, you'll see a link to Alex's podcast as well. Secondly, you will see a link to the book Black Box Thinking that we discussed. And thirdly, you will see a link to the J.R. Calc Clinical Guidelines Pocketbook. This is a definitive guide to emergency care for healthcare professionals on the road and in the community. This is updated, I think, every single year. So the latest link that we're giving you there is for the 2021 Pocketbook. So final thanks for me. If you haven't already done so, please hit that subscribe or follow to stay up to date with all the latest from the Firefighters Podcast. A massive thanks to Alex. A big thanks for you coming back. Look after yourself, support each other, support your emergency services, no matter where you are in the world. And we will see you again real soon, right here on the Firefighters Podcast.